Thank you. Councilmember Griffiths.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any questions, but I've got an awful lot of comments, and everybody can sit back and relax for a few. I've got some notes that I've written, so I'm going to read from them to make sure I cover all my points, but it should be no surprise to anyone that I have a lot to say on the subject, as I've been following it since 2014 when it started to be discussed at City Council prior to my being a member of the council. First, let me say I appreciate the benefits of clean streets. I get nothing but positive comments from people about our streets looking clean, and that the clean streets makes a city look better all the way around, and I'm a strong supporter of that. In fact, as a little personal history, in my neighborhood, many years before this program even started, myself and many of my neighbors petitioned the city to have street signs for no parking for street sweeping signs put in my neighborhood with enforcement prior to this program. And once those signs were put up, the program was effective, our streets got clean, and we had a very successful and happy neighborhood, because we had a lot of business and apartment parking overflow into our neighborhood that we just couldn't get them moved any other way. So we were able to do that without implementing a citywide program, and I think that's an approach that would be appropriate in cities, in areas of the city that have problems. This solution, as I said, it was available to any neighborhood who felt they needed to do this, but forcing the program upon 85% of the city that didn't specifically ask for it, in my opinion, is a bit of an overreach of governments for reasons I'll try to detail out here. First, I'm going to state some facts. Fact number one, no organization said that we have to implement 100% street sweeping to achieve the water quality regulations. Many options are available to cities, and street sweeping is just one of those options. Some additional comments on that fact. Most cities in the South Bay have actually done little or nothing to meet these mandates due to the high costs of compliance with these regulations. This information I got from a meeting sponsored by Almar Suchi in August of this year, and these other cities stated that they just can't afford to implement these programs to meet the Water Board's requirements. The Water Board even acknowledged at this meeting earlier this year and is looking at reconsidering some of its options and goals. The Water Board also admitted that they have not fined anyone for failure to meet these mandates. This threat of big fines was used as another tool to justify moving forward with this plan back in 2014. Storm drain screens may, in fact, be all that is needed to meet this mandate. Fact number two, revenue from street sweeping, no parking tickets, year-to-date is $670,000, not including the fourth quarter of this year. Revenue in 2013 for the whole year before the program was implemented was $298,000. Staff and council in 2014 both said repeatedly during the discussions on this issue that this program is not designed to make more revenue. And the commentary is, if you do the math yourself, based on the statistics provided in the report, the total new revenue as a result of this program is going to be greater than $500,000 annually. Fact number three, the city has not increased staffing expense for parking enforcement since prior to this program being enacted. The same level of staffing. In fact, Mayor Scotto said in May 2014, as part of the justification for this program, and to substantiate that no new revenue would occur, and he said, and I quote, "Since no new parking enforcement staff is being added, they won't be able to write more tickets than they are currently." No one from staff spoke up to contradict him. And that's all on the record. If enforcement expense has remained the same, but the income has gone up, isn't that technically a net increase in revenue? Fact number four, staff reported that the program requires that 100% of trash and debris be removed to comply. There is no way we will ever be 100% compliance, short of putting collectors on 100% of our storm drain entry points or big collectors where the storm drains feed into watersheds. Commentary on that is street sweeping happens only 1 day per week, leaving 6 days unswept. Fact number five, staff reports in today's item that there's only been a 10% increase in debris picked up since prior to starting the program. In my opinion, that's a small increase percentage-wise, for all the expense and effort that the city is put out and that our residents are paying. How much of the small increase in debris pickup is just from the storm drain screens? We have no way to know, since the screens and the street sweeping was implemented simultaneously. And there was no measurements taken. If storm drain screens were implemented at 100% of storm drain entrances and just those screens were cleaned regularly, I think the program would be more effective at meeting the real reported goal of capturing at closer to 100% of the debris prior to entrance to storm drain system. Fact number 6, any neighborhood that wanted their streets swept better could have requested the city to post signs to better serve those areas. 15% of the city had no parking for street sweeping prior to implementing this program, including my neighborhood. Fact number 7, staff said that they expect no revenue because they expect 100% compliance with the street sweeping signs. Commentary on that is that this is an irresponsible statement from staff that staff should have known that was never possibly going to be true. Based on historical numbers from the city, from the 15% of the city that had signs long before this new program was implemented, showing that typically 1,500 to 2,000 tickets were being issued every quarter, reliably, for street sweeping infractions. With 104 times a year for someone who has to park a car on the street to remember to move it, the odds are very high that they will forget from time to time. Fact number 8, some areas of the city where there is parking on only one side of the street are even more unfairly burdened by this program, as they have to park sometimes blocks away from their home if they can't fit their cars in their driveways or garages. I feel especially bad for the elderly and the infirm who are required to do this every week. Fact number 9, staff reports that in fact street sweeping tickets are down based on the number of zones now being enforced, as stated in the item today. So using the justification that the number of tickets per zone is down, that there's an implication that there is better compliance now than in the past. But couldn't that decrease be that there may be in fact a limit to how many tickets the current parking enforcement staff can write? Ironically, in the most recent budget discussions, there was a request to add an additional parking enforcement officer. But thankfully, the city manager opted not to recommend that at this time. So just because, for whatever reason, that the number of tickets per zone is decreasing, that doesn't change the fact that overall the number of tickets and hence revenue is continuing to increase and would likely increase even more if additional parking enforcement staff were hired. So these are some options that I have said in the past and will repeat again tonight for trying to move forward. Option number 1, remove the street sweeping signs except in the neighborhoods that petition to keep them. Instead, focus on storm drain screening and cleaning to achieve progress towards the mandated goals. Option number 2, limit the number of street sweeping tickets that can be given out in any period. Say a maximum of 1,000 tickets per month for street sweeping violation. Target only those areas that are having the biggest problems with debris. We don't enforce 100% of people who break the law speeding on our streets. Why do we have to enforce street sweeping so heavily? Aren't the other parking enforcement issues that need to be addressed other than street sweeping? How about 72-hour violations? How about 2-hour time limit enforcements where it's signed? How about handicap placard abuse? Obviously, street sweeping tickets are the easiest to write. Option number 3, reduce the fines for street sweeping violations so as not to be so punitive in nature. If the goal is not to raise revenue, then this option should be painless. Also, the program has generated a huge windfall for the county court system at $12.50 per ticket. We should get some relief from the county on this, as I'm quite sure that there isn't an equal burden placed on the courts as a result of this program. Option number 4, other options I previously suggested and was given thumbs down by staff included graduated fines based on repeat offenses. As you increase your number of offenses, the fine goes up. Another option would be to offer residents 1 free pass per year per vehicle to account for people who just forget, and aren't we all human? Put aside excess revenue into a private fund for doing something requested for the residents. Earmark it for a special positive project that the residents would enjoy. In summary, I believe that this program was moved forward under less than straightforward pretenses, most notably that it wouldn't generate revenue, but as predicted, it has in large amounts. If the city wants additional revenue, be honest about it and go ahead about it in an upfront and fair manner. Obviously, those with few cars or big garages and driveways aren't burdened by this, but the less fortunate have to bear the brunt of this program. Our parking codes are not sufficient to keep cars off the street. Many of our residential and apartment and multifamily parking requirements are not sufficient for the number of cars that people have and the fact that they don't use their garage, unfortunately, for their automobiles. I implore my colleagues to remember who we represent when we make decisions on this issue. I think our residents are generally law-abiding, honest citizens, and we shouldn't find ways to make them feel like criminals for the benefit of the city coffers. I believe we can achieve the goals of this program without doing so. At this point, I'll listen to what the public and my colleagues have to say. Thank you.